How to live in the final state and attract everything you desire. Secret of Hill and Dispenza. What if the life you dream of is not something waiting in the distant horizon, but something already complete, already alive, already vibrating in a realm just beyond your awareness? What if the wealth, the love, the success, the peace you crave are not goals to chase but states of being that you can step into right now? Imagine for a moment that the only reason you do not see them in your current reality is because you keep living as the person who is still waiting, still hoping, still fighting. That is the paradox most people never escape. They believe they must achieve in order to become, when in truth you must become in order to achieve. This is the forgotten code, the hidden principle that Napoleon Hill whispered in his timeless writings and that Joe Dispenza has proven with modern science. Reality bends to the state you live in, not to the struggle you perform. Pause and think. How many times have you told yourself, "When I finally get there, I will feel whole, I will feel happy, I will feel secure"? And how many years have passed while you rehearsed the same sentence, waiting for the future to give you permission to feel now? Do you see the trap? By postponing the emotion, you postpone the reality. By saying, "I will believe it when I see it," you condemn yourself to never see it, because you never allow belief to come first. That is why the majority chase endlessly and die with their dreams unfulfilled, because they never understood that the only way to bring the future into the present is to embody the final state before it shows up. Napoleon Hill, writing almost a century ago, said it in words that still echo today. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. People read that sentence and think it is motivational poetry, but it was not meant as poetry. It was a formula. Conceive, create the idea. Believe, live in the feeling. Achieve, watch the world, mirror it back. Hill was not describing wishful thinking. He was describing mechanics, cause and effect. Joe Dispenza, through the lens of neuroscience and quantum physics, demonstrates that when you imagine and truly feel an event, your brain and body code it as real. Neural networks fire, hormones release, the nervous system aligns. Your body becomes the memory of a future that has not yet happened, and the quantum field begins to collapse probabilities into reality to match your state. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people are addicted to the opposite. They are addicted to rehearsing failure. They wake up in the morning and instantly recall yesterday's problems. They complain about the same lack of money. They remember the same heartbreak. They stress about the same job. They call this being realistic. In truth, it is being hypnotized by the past. Every time they replay those emotions, they strengthen the neural circuits of the old identity, and by doing so, they guarantee that tomorrow will be a carbon copy of yesterday. The final state never arrives because they never step into it. They are like actors rehearsing the wrong play, waiting for applause that will never come. And yet, somewhere inside, they know this cannot be all there is. They feel the quiet suspicion that life is more plastic, more malleable, more responsive than they were taught. They notice moments where thoughts seem to shape coincidences, where belief opens doors that logic alone could not explain, where surrender brings opportunities they could never have forced. These glimpses are not accidents. They are reminders of the law that governs all creation. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. You do not manifest by begging, you manifest by being. So I ask you, what state are you rehearsing right now? Are you practicing lack, waiting for life to fill it? Or are you willing to step boldly into the state of completion, even before the evidence? Can you dare to feel wealthy when your bank account says otherwise? Can you dare to feel loved when the room is still empty? Can you dare to feel healthy when your body aches? This is the leap that separates those who chase endlessly from those who live in alignment. Hill called it faith. Dispenza calls it coherence. Different words, same truth. If you are willing to suspend the old program for just a moment and live from the end, your world will begin to shift in ways that feel impossible until you experience them. This is not philosophy for philosophers. This is not fantasy for dreamers. This is practical spirituality. timeless psychology and proven science converging on one simple truth. When you embody the final state, everything you desire must flow to you, because reality has no choice but to follow the state you have claimed. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it feels to keep chasing? You tell yourself that if you just try harder, push longer, sacrifice more, eventually, the life you want will show up. Yet the harder you run, the further away it seems. This is the hidden trap of effort, the endless treadmill that convinces you progress is being made while in truth you are circling the same ground. Napoleon Hill saw it in the faces of countless men and women who came to him desperate for success. They worked harder than anyone, but their lives never changed because effort alone cannot rewrite the invisible script of the mind. Joe Dispenza calls this the survival state, living in constant stress, chasing outcomes with the belief that only through force will anything move. And what does survival create? More survival, more scarcity, more struggle. Think about the person who wants financial freedom. They wake up every day panicked about bills, obsessing over debt, worrying about whether opportunities will come. They grind long hours, chase every lead, hustle until they collapse, and yet the money never stays. Why? Because their state is lack. They vibrate worry. They embody desperation. The more they fight, the more reality mirrors back situations that confirm their fear. Their chasing reinforces the very frequency that blocks abundance. Another example is love. Someone longs for a relationship, so they constantly search, constantly swipe, constantly analyze whether someone will finally notice them. But every action is flavored by neediness, by emptiness, by the belief, I am not enough until someone loves me. And so the universe continues to reflect that state. People pull away, connections fade, loneliness deepens. They are chasing love, but the energy of chasing is the energy of repelling. Even health follows this trap. A person who obsesses over their sickness, who constantly measures symptoms, who reads about disease and speaks endlessly about pain, may do all the right treatments, but still feel trapped. Why? Because their body is receiving the message every day. I am unwell. I am broken. And the body, loyal to the mind, obeys. Hill called this autosuggestion, the repetition of thought and feeling that programs the subconscious. Dispenza shows us the same thing with brain scans. When you think and feel the same limited state repeatedly, you wire your brain and condition your body to live there. You become addicted to the very identity that you say you want to escape. That is why chasing never works. You can run faster, shout louder, force more actions, but if the state within remains rooted in lack, your external reality cannot escape it. It is like trying to change the reflection in the mirror by wiping the glass instead of changing the face that looks into it. The mirror is innocent. It simply shows what is in front of it. Life is the same. It is reflecting your state, not your effort. And so when you live in the vibration of waiting, you receive more waiting. When you live in the vibration of need, you receive more need. When you live in the vibration of struggle, you receive more struggle. That is why some people seem cursed with repeating cycles. They change jobs, but meet the same problems. They change partners, but experience the same heartbreak. They change strategies, but face the same failures. It is not the job, not the partner, not the strategy. It is the state. So the real pain of chasing is not just exhaustion. It is the humiliation of seeing life confirm your fears again and again. It is the ache of believing you are doing everything right and yet watching nothing change. It is the secret voice in your head whispering, maybe it will never happen for me. That voice is the most dangerous of all, because it convinces you to settle, to shrink your dreams, to accept mediocrity as destiny. And once you surrender to that, the fire inside begins to dim. Hill warned about this when he spoke of drifting, the state where a person no longer directs their thoughts but allows circumstance to dictate them. Drifting is the slow death of the soul, the slow fading of possibility. But here is where the story can change. Because the moment you realize that chasing is the symptom of a deeper misunderstanding, you can stop running in circles and start addressing the real cause. The problem is not your discipline, not your intelligence, not your luck. The problem is that you have been fighting in the wrong arena. You have been trying to move pieces on the outside while leaving the state inside untouched. That is like trying to rearrange shadows without ever moving the light that casts them. The shadows will not obey until the source changes. The source is your state. The state is your identity, your emotions, your beliefs rehearsed so consistently that they have become your home. This is why Dispenza insists that you cannot create a new reality with the same mind that created the old one. As long as you wake up and think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and live in the same state, you are broadcasting the same signal into the field. And the field, like the mirror, faithfully reflects it. The pain of chasing is therefore the invitation to stop, to interrupt the cycle, to recognize that nothing outside will ever complete you until you embody completion within. It is a harsh truth, but it is also liberating, because it means you no longer have to wait for luck, for approval, for circumstance. You can reclaim the power right now by shifting the state you choose to live in. So the question is no longer, how hard must I work to get there? The real question is, who must I become right now so that there is no gap between me and what I desire? When you stop chasing, you begin to see that the finish line was never in front of you. It was always inside you, waiting for you to cross it from within. There comes a moment when the endless cycle of chasing forces you to ask a deeper question. If running harder and doing more has not brought the breakthrough, then what is missing? This is the moment where the hidden shift reveals itself. The realization that you do not manifest by struggling toward a future, you manifest by inhabiting it now. This is what is meant by living in the final state. It is not about hoping. It is not about wishing. It is not about trying to convince yourself with empty affirmations. It is about stepping into the frequency of the reality you desire so completely that you no longer feel the separation between you and it. Napoleon Hill understood this principle when he wrote about faith not as blind belief, but as a state of mind deliberately cultivated until it becomes reality. Joe Dispenza explains it scientifically, showing how the brain and body cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined future and an actual present moment. Both voices, one from the past and one from the present, are pointing you to the same truth. When you live the end begins to live through you. Consider how most people approach change. They wake up, look around at their circumstances, and allow what they see to dictate what they feel. If the bills are stacked on the counter, they feel poor. If they are single, they feel lonely. If their body aches, they feel broken. They live reactively, allowing the evidence of the senses to become the prison of their state. But this is the opposite of creation. Hill wrote that you must keep your mind fixed on the picture of what you desire, unwavering, no matter the evidence. Dispenza demonstrates that by rehearsing the emotions of a desired future, the body begins to believe it has already arrived, and once the body is convinced, reality begins to conform. The hidden shift is realizing that your feelings are not supposed to be a reflection of your environment. They are supposed to be the cause that reshapes it. When you understand this, you begin to see why so many remain stuck. They keep waiting for the world to change before they allow themselves to feel changed. They wait for the money before they feel abundant. They wait for the partner before they feel loved. They wait for the healing before they feel whole. And by waiting, they create more waiting. The universe mirrors their hesitation with delay because they are broadcasting the signal of incompletion. But imagine what happens when you invert that pattern. Imagine you begin to wake up and feel as if the abundance is already in your hands. The love is already by your side. The health is already flowing through your body. At first, the mind will resist. It will argue. It will say, "But it is not here yet, you are pretending." This is where the discipline comes in. Because when you insist on living the feeling despite the lack of evidence, you are training your mind to surrender to possibility instead of memory. Dispenza describes this as creating coherence between the heart and the brain, aligning thought with emotion until the signal you broadcast into the quantum field is unified, strong, undeniable. Hill spoke of burning desire and absolute faith, the mental states that override doubt and force the subconscious to accept a new reality. Though they used different languages, they described the same shift, a move from hoping to knowing, from wanting to being. This is why so many people misunderstand manifestation. They think it is about thinking positive thoughts or repeating affirmations while still feeling empty inside. But no amount of words can override a state that contradicts them. You cannot speak abundance while rehearsing lack. You cannot affirm love while vibrating loneliness. The universe responds to your state, not your slogans. This is the secret hidden in plain sight. Living in the final state is not fantasy. It is the only way creation actually works. Every invention, every success, every breakthrough in history began with someone who refused to accept present evidence as final. They saw beyond it, lived beyond it, felt beyond it, until the world adjusted. Edison saw the light bulb before wires glowed. Wright brothers felt the sky before wings lifted. Every story of transformation begins with the same hidden shift. Someone dared to embody the future now. So the question that presses on you is this: can you live as if it is already done? Can you allow yourself to feel joy before the outcome, gratitude before the arrival, wholeness before the proof? Because when you do, something extraordinary happens. Your nervous system begins to match the new story. Your mind stops recycling the old emotions. Your body learns the language of the future, and the quantum field, impartial and responsive, rearranges matter to reflect the vibration you have claimed. This is not magic, it is mechanics. It is not luck, it is law. The hidden shift is the bridge between the pain of chasing and the freedom of becoming. Once you step into it, the game changes. You no longer beg for a new reality, you command it by being it. And that is when the final state stops being a concept and starts being your life. If living in the final state is the key, then what keeps so many people locked out of it? The answer lies in the invisible programs that run beneath the surface of awareness. You wake up every morning and believe you are thinking fresh thoughts, but in truth, more than 90% of your thoughts are the same as yesterday. You believe you are making new choices, yet those choices are dictated by the same emotions you rehearsed for years. Fear, doubt, anger, guilt, shame. These are not just passing feelings. They are programs. They are loops installed by repetition, by trauma, by culture, by memory. And as long as they remain unchallenged, they hijack the present moment and force you to relive the past. Napoleon Hill warned of this trap when he spoke of the enemy called fear. Joe Dispenza shows us how the body literally becomes addicted to the chemistry of these emotions, craving them like a drug even when they destroy us. Until you see these loops for what they are, you will keep calling them reality, when in truth they are only memory replayed on repeat. Think of it like this. Every time you tell yourself, "I can't," or "it never works," or "people like me don't succeed," you are not speaking truth, you are echoing a program. Somewhere in the past, a parent, a teacher, a failure planted the seed, and over time you watered it with your attention. Now it feels like your identity, but it is not you. It is a script. Every morning that script loads, and unless you interrupt it, it will guide your emotions, your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your results. This is why change feels so hard. Because you are not fighting circumstances, you are fighting an internal autopilot that does not want to let go. Dispenza explains that when you think the same thoughts, you fire the same neurons. And when you fire the same neurons, you wire the same circuits. Over years, those circuits become highways in the brain, grooves that make old patterns effortless. Pair that with the emotional chemicals released by stress, fear, or worry, and your body becomes addicted to the feeling of being the old you. Your body begins to wake up before your mind does, anticipating the same emotions, ready to deliver the same chemistry. That is why the moment you try to think greater than your feelings, the body resists. It whispers, "This isn't you. Go back to what is familiar." And unless you persist, you obey. Hill wrote of the need for definiteness of purpose, the focused commitment that cuts through the noise of doubt. Without definiteness, the mind becomes a playground for fear, procrastination, and self-sabotage. He called this drifting, and drifting is exactly what happens when you allow old programs to run unchallenged. You drift back into fear. You drift back into limitation. You drift back into being a victim of your circumstances. The tragedy is that you may call it destiny, when it is only programming. Imagine someone who wants to attract abundance but wakes up every day worrying about money. Their worry is not truth, it is a program. Imagine someone who longs for love but every morning replays heartbreak in their mind. Their loneliness is not destiny, it is a program. Imagine someone who desires health but constantly identifies as sick, rehearsing pain and limitation. Their illness becomes not just physical, but an identity. In each case, the program is stronger than the desire, because the program is what they live. And life, loyal to state, delivers more of it. So how do you break the program? First, by seeing it, by catching the loop as it plays and refusing to call it truth. By realizing that just because a thought arises does not mean it belongs to you. You must stand outside it and recognize, this is an old tape, a leftover story, a habit of identity. Once you see it, you can begin to starve it. Every time you refuse to emotionally engage with the old narrative, you weaken the circuits that support it. Every time you choose a new thought, a new feeling, a new state, you fire new neurons and begin wiring a new pathway. At first it feels awkward, even fake, because the old program has been running for so long. But with repetition and emotion, the new state grows stronger until it becomes the default. Dispenza teaches this as mental rehearsal, imagining a new version of yourself so vividly, with so much feeling, that your brain begins to accept it as real. Hill taught the same through visualization and autosuggestion, feeding the subconscious mind images and words of the desired end until they replace doubt with faith. Both point to the same solution. Destroy the old program by starving it of attention and replacing it with a state aligned to your final vision. The truth is, you cannot create a new life with the old self. The old self is coated with fear, doubt, and limitation. The new life requires a new identity, one that is free from the chains of yesterday. That identity must be practiced into being. It must be rehearsed until it feels more natural than the old story. And once it does, the final state is no longer something you visit occasionally. It becomes your home. And when the final state is your home, reality cannot help but bring its furniture to match. Once you understand that the old program must be dismantled, the natural question is, what takes its place? This is where the art of embodying the final state begins. To embody means more than thinking, more than repeating words, more than daydreaming. It means to saturate your being with the identity of the person who already lives the life you desire. It is to walk, breathe, speak, and feel as if the wish has already been fulfilled. It is not pretending. It is rehearsing truth until it becomes undeniable. Napoleon Hill called this burning desire combined with faith, the ability to act from conviction instead of circumstance. Joe Dispenza shows that the nervous system does not differentiate between an imagined experience lived with intensity and a real one. When you rehearse the final state, your body encodes it as memory, and memory becomes reality. Think about what happens when an actor takes on a role. At first, it is just lines on a page, but through rehearsal, through repetition, through emotion, the character begins to take over. The actor walks differently, talks differently, feels differently. For the duration of the role, the actor becomes that person. The audience believes it because the actor believes it. Embodying the final state works the same way. You choose the role of your future self and you rehearse it until you are no longer acting. You are living it. The world, like the audience, begins to respond to the version you have stepped into. The first step is clarity. You cannot embody what you have not defined. So you ask, who is the version of me who already has the life I want? How do they wake up? What do they believe about themselves? What emotions do they carry as their default? If abundance is the goal, the final state is not obsessing over money. It is feeling secure, generous, and free. If love is the goal, the final state is not chasing someone, it is feeling worthy, radiant, magnetic. If health is the goal, the final state is not waiting for healing, it is feeling vibrant, strong, and whole. Once you define this version, you begin to align with it. The second step is rehearsal. Every day you practice the feelings of the final state until they become familiar. At first it may feel awkward. Your mind will protest. pointing to evidence that contradicts the state. But remember, the body cannot tell the difference between a real event and an intensely imagined one. If you feel gratitude for abundance now, the body encodes it as truth. If you feel love now, the body encodes it as truth. If you feel wholeness now, the body encodes it as truth. Over time, those feelings become automatic, and when they are automatic, they are identity. The third step is integration. You carry the state into action. You walk as the abundant self, you speak as the loved self, you breathe as the healthy self. Small daily rituals reinforce the identity. The way you stand, the tone of your voice, the decisions you make, they all become evidence that you are already living the end. This is how the subconscious is convinced. This is how the nervous system aligns. And once alignment is achieved, the field responds. Dispenza explains this through the concept of coherence, where your heart and brain broadcast a unified signal. When your thoughts and emotions are aligned with the final state, the energy you send into the quantum field is consistent and powerful. Hill described the same phenomenon when he spoke of definiteness of purpose, the unwavering focus that magnetizes resources, people, and opportunities. The principle is timeless. Once you embody the final state, reality bends to match it. But here is the deeper truth. Embodiment is not about forcing. It is about surrender. You are not trying to convince the universe. You are allowing yourself to be convinced. You are not chasing proof. You are becoming proof. You are no longer looking outward with desperate eyes. You are radiating inward with conviction. This shift changes everything because the energy of lack disappears. You stop broadcasting "I need" and start broadcasting "I am." And reality, like a mirror, reflects "I am." Some people resist this because they think it is delusion. But is it delusion to practice a future until it arrives, or is it wisdom? Every champion, every innovator, every leader has done exactly this. They lived as if success was inevitable long before the world agreed. The world eventually caught up because their state gave it no other option. Embodying the final state is not denial of present reality. It is alignment with a higher one. You are not ignoring what is, you are choosing what will be. And so the question becomes, are you willing to step into that version of yourself now before the evidence? Are you willing to embody the final state even when your senses argue against it? Because the moment you do, you stop being a seeker and start being a creator. You stop rehearsing the old story and start rehearsing the new one. And when the new one becomes more real to you than the old, reality has no choice but to conform. Skeptics often say, "Show me proof." They demand evidence before belief, results before faith, change before surrender. But history reveals that proof is never the beginning. It is always the outcome. Every great transformation, every personal breakthrough, every miracle of success begins with someone daring to embody a new state before the world reflects it. Napoleon Hill filled his work with stories of men and women who lived in the certainty of their vision when everyone else called them dreamers. Joe Dispenza documents case after case of ordinary people who rewired their minds and bodies through practice until healing, abundance, or opportunity appeared where logic said it was impossible. These are not fairy tales. They are demonstrations of a law as consistent as gravity. Life mirrors your state, not your doubts. Consider the countless individuals Hill interviewed for his research into success. Many of them had nothing at the beginning, no resources, no advantages, no guarantees. Yet they carried within them a burning desire so fierce it shaped their daily state. They refused to live as the poor, the defeated, the overlooked. They lived as the wealthy, the victorious, the chosen long before the evidence arrived. Over time, opportunities seemed to appear as if by magic. People were drawn to them, doors opened, ideas flourished. But Hill was clear. It was not magic. It was the mind in harmony with its vision, the state broadcasting a signal too strong to be ignored. Dispenza provides modern proof in laboratories and workshops. He shows patients who were once crippled by disease rehearsing the state of health so vividly that their bodies began to repair. He shows individuals plagued by trauma stepping into the emotions of freedom until the past lost its grip. He shows ordinary people collapsing the distance between who they were and who they chose to be simply by embodying the future now. Brain scans confirm it. Blood tests confirm it. The science is unshakable. When the state changes, biology follows. And when biology follows, life must follow too. Take, for instance, a story of someone who lived in constant scarcity. They had grown up in poverty, carried debts, and believed wealth was for others. For years, no amount of effort freed them from the cycle. But the moment they learned to rehearse abundance, to feel secure, grateful, and expansive before a single dollar appeared, their state shifted. Soon opportunities came, not because they forced them, but because their new vibration aligned them with people and ideas that matched abundance. Within years, their financial reality reflected the state they had chosen long before it was visible. What changed was not luck, it was identity. Or consider someone who suffered a devastating heartbreak and carried loneliness like a shadow. No matter how hard they searched for love, relationships collapsed. Why? Because their state was lack, their energy was need, their vibration was emptiness. But when they stopped chasing and began embodying love by feeling whole, by radiating warmth, by choosing worthiness, their magnetism transformed. They began to attract people who matched their new state, and the relationship they once thought impossible became inevitable. Again, not coincidence. Law. The stories go on. The sick who become whole, the overlooked who become leaders, the hopeless who become radiant with possibility. Each case, different in detail, identical in principle. Proof is everywhere for those willing to see it. Hill and Dispenza may have spoken in different eras, but their voices join in harmony. You do not wait for life to prove itself before you believe. You believe until life has no choice but to prove you right. The rhythm of these stories is simple. Struggle, revelation, shift, outcome. First, the individual is trapped in the old program, repeating the pain. Then comes the revelation that state is the cause, not circumstance. Then the shift, a conscious choice to live the final state before its evidence. Finally, the outcome, reality aligning with the new identity. This rhythm has repeated across centuries, across cultures, across lives. It is not bound to time, wealth, education, or opportunity. It is bound only to the courage of the individual to embody the unseen. So when doubt whispers, "Where is the proof?" remember the truth. Proof follows state. The evidence comes after belief, not before. You are not asked to trust blindly, but to experiment with your own life as the laboratory. Live the final state for yourself and watch as reality bends to catch up. That is the only proof that will ever matter. The proof you create by daring to become. There is a paradox at the heart of manifestation that very few understand. The harder you cling, the further it slips. The more desperately you chase, the more reality seems to push it away. This is the mystery that confuses so many seekers. They visualize, they affirm, they embody the final state. Yet because they hold on with clenched fists, the outcome eludes them. Napoleon Hill wrote that persistence is essential, but he never equated persistence with desperation. Joe Dispenza teaches that surrender is just as vital as focus. Together, their wisdom unveils the paradox of letting go, an act that feels like release, yet is the true seal of conviction. When you cling to a desire, you are secretly affirming that it is not yet yours. You may speak abundance, but if you fear losing it, you are vibrating scarcity. You may rehearse love, but if you obsess over when it will come, you are broadcasting loneliness. You may visualize health, but if you constantly check whether symptoms remain, you are reinforcing illness. The mind says, "I am practicing faith," but the energy screams, "I do not have it yet." And the universe, neutral and precise, responds not to words but to vibration. So it mirrors the state of lack and the waiting continues. Think of the farmer who plants a seed. He does not dig it up every morning to see if it has sprouted. He waters it, he trusts it, he allows the soil and the sun to do their work. His faith is proven not by staring at the ground in panic, but by moving forward as though the harvest is inevitable. This is the essence of letting go. You plant the seed of the final state in your mind and body, and then you release the need to control how and when it grows. You walk in trust. You embody certainty. You detach from the timeline. That detachment is not indifference. It is the highest form of confidence. Hill called it unwavering faith. He spoke of those who succeeded, not because they demanded instant results, but because they lived as if results were guaranteed. They persisted in action, but they were free from doubt. Dispenza explains it as surrendering to the quantum field, giving up the need to predict how the future will unfold, and trusting that the intelligence of the universe will orchestrate it. In both cases, the message is clear. Control belongs to the old self, surrender belongs to the new. When you cling, you are still the old self. When you release, you prove that the new self has already arrived. The paradox is that letting go is not weakness. It is mastery. Anyone can panic, anyone can obsess, anyone can chase. But only the one who truly knows can relax into certainty. When you embody the final state and release your grip, you are declaring, I am already it. There is nothing to fear, nothing to chase, nothing to prove. That declaration vibrates with power. It is felt by people around you. It is registered by your nervous system. It is broadcast into the field. And life bends to match it, often faster than when you were trying to force it. Consider the person desperate for love. They check their phone constantly, analyzing every word, fearing abandonment. Their energy suffocates connection. But when they finally surrender, when they decide they are already whole, already radiant, already loved, the energy shifts. They become magnetic, and love flows in naturally. Or the person obsessed with money, hustling in fear, counting every cent, vibrating panic. The moment they let go, living as if abundance is already flowing, opportunities arise with ease. Not because they stopped acting, but because they stopped clinging. Their actions now flow from certainty, not survival. Letting go does not mean passivity. Hill never advocated sitting idle, and Dispenza never suggested abandoning action. It means you act from fullness, not emptiness. You work, but not as a beggar trying to earn worth. You work as a creator expressing what is already true. You love, but not as someone starving for affection. You love as someone overflowing. You move, but not to chase. You move to embody. This subtle shift is everything, because it transforms effort into expression, persistence into presence, desire into embodiment. The paradox of letting go is therefore the final test. It asks you, do you really believe? If you do, you can release the outcome and live as if it is done. If you do not, you cling, you chase, you panic, and life responds by delaying. So every moment of desperation is an invitation to surrender, every grip of fear an opportunity to trust. Hill would say this is faith proven in fire. Dispenza would say it is coherence with the field. The language differs, but the truth is one. You only receive fully when you release completely. So ask yourself now, what are you clinging to so tightly that you are choking the life out of it? Can you plant the seed and let it grow? Can you embody the end and allow the how to remain a mystery? Because the moment you do, you step into the paradox where release becomes power, and what once ran from you begins to flow toward you effortlessly. There comes a point where all the principles, all the insights, all the revelations converge into one decisive invitation to stop being a spectator of this truth and step into it with your whole being. You can listen to Hill's words. You can study Dispenza's science. You can nod in agreement with every example and every story. But until you practice, until you embody, until you claim the final state in this very moment, nothing changes. Knowledge without embodiment is just entertainment. Transformation begins only when you stop waiting for proof and start living as proof. So what does it mean to enter the state now? It begins with a choice. You close your eyes, you quiet the noise of the outside world, and you decide that for the next few minutes you are not the person who is lacking, not the person who is waiting, not the person who is struggling. You decide you are the person who already lives the end. If your desire is abundance, you allow yourself to feel the relief, the security, the generosity of wealth as if it is already yours. If your desire is love, you fill your chest with warmth, with radiance, with the certainty that you are already worthy, already seen, already cherished. If your desire is health, you breathe as if your body is already whole, vibrant, strong, alive. You do not wait for the evidence, you generate the evidence inside you. At first, your mind may resist. It will argue, it will whisper, but look at your bank account, look at your empty bed, look at your aching body. That is the old program trying to survive. You do not fight it with anger, you simply return to the feeling, again and again, until the new state begins to feel more natural than the old. This is training. This is mental and emotional rehearsal. Hill called it auto-suggestion, the repeated feeding of the subconscious until it bends to your will. Dispenza calls it creating coherence, aligning thought and emotion until your nervous system broadcasts a unified signal. Both are pointing you to the same practice. Repetition with emotion until the state becomes identity. And then, you carry it into your day. You do not leave it on the meditation cushion or in the quiet moment of reflection. You take it with you into conversations, into decisions, into the way you walk and breathe and see the world. Every action becomes an expression of the final state. You do not work to get abundance, you work as abundance. You do not seek love to feel complete, you radiate love because you are complete. You do not chase health to escape illness, you live as health, and the body follows. The final state becomes not a practice you visit but a reality you inhabit. This is where the paradox of letting go fuses with the power of embodiment. You do not measure, you do not test, you do not panic about whether it is working. You simply live it. You embody so fully that doubt has no room to breathe. And slowly at first, then suddenly, reality begins to catch up. The opportunities align, the people arrive, the doors open, the symptoms fade, the evidence appears. But by the time it does, you no longer need it, because you already knew. That is the irony of the final state. The moment you no longer need the proof rushes to you. So here is your invitation. Close the gap between theory and practice, between desire and being. Do not wait another day for the future to save you. Step into the end now. Feel it, breathe it, live it until it becomes who you are. Let gratitude flood your body as if the prayer has already been answered, because in the realm of state, it has. And as you hold that state, the mirror of life will have no choice but to reflect it. Remember this haunting truth: you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you live as the one who wants, you will keep wanting. If you live as the one who is, you will keep being. And being always creates having. This is the secret Hill guarded. This is the science Dispenza reveals. This is the invitation being offered to you now. Stop being the seeker. Become the embodiment. Enter the final state, and everything you desire will be drawn to you, not as a miracle, but as law.